Hello, listeners, and thank you for joining us here on the Week 1 preview for the 2019 NFL season. We are finally here with the regular season. No more of these preseason games and predictions. Let's get right to it here. Huh? Before we do that, remember you can check us out on Google Podcasts, YouTube, and on SoundCloud.
As usual, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Before we move on to our Week 1 preview and predictions, let's recap our playoff teams from the episodes where we went over each of the divisions. In the AFC, I have New England coming in with the 1 seed, followed up by Kansas City as the 2 seed. Following them, I have Pittsburgh winning the AFC North at the 3 seed, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars winning the AFC South coming in as the 4 seed, followed by the Los Angeles Chargers as the 5 seed in the wildcard spot. And then I did have Indianapolis as the 6th team in the AFC playoffs as a wildcard, but due to recent events, no longer are they there. And I have the Cleveland Browns coming in for the first time in God knows how long as a wildcard playoff team in the AFC. Who are your playoff teams, Jay Smooth?
I also have the New England Patriots taking the East and getting that 1 seed. I have the Los Angeles Chargers snagging that 2 seed, taking the West.
Big pick.
I have the Cleveland Browns snagging the 3rd seed, taking the AFC North. And Houston Texans rounding out the division winners at the 4 seed, taking the AFC South. And I have the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kansas City Chiefs snagging those wild cards with the same record. So we'll say Pittsburgh gets 5, KC with 6.
KC is a 6 seed, so you'd have them against Cleveland in the first round. That's
right.
A hell of a matchup. Who do you have in the AFC as a possible MVP candidate for this season?
I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson from the Houston Texans this year. I think he has tons of weapons. Newly added Kenny Stills and Carlos Hyde. Of course, Lamar Miller just recently tore his ACL, but I think this is the year they have everything in place, but it's all going to be him, and I think he is capable to take them in that direction.
I'm going to go with the easy pick and say Patrick Mahomes is my AFC MVP candidate because, well, I mean, when you put up 50 touchdowns, it's going to be interesting to see what you can do for an encore. I just think Mahomes in the situation he's at right now, he's going to have a heck of a start to his career. He already has. I think he's just going to continue it this season. But got to throw out a wild card here at you. What non-quarterback in the AFC do you see could possibly sneak in as an MVP candidate?
Non-quarterback. Wow, that's a tough one.
Right on the spot. I'm asking you right now. I'll give you some time to think. For me, I'm going to say Leonard Fournette down in Jacksonville. I think he's going to have a bounce-back season, and I think he is the key to that offense. I know they brought in Nick Foles. He's going to provide some balance to that offense, but I think Fournette's going to have a huge season there in Jacksonville. One of the reasons why I have them winning the AFC South this season. But if any player in the AFC that is not a quarterback could make a run at an MVP season this year, I think it's going to be Leonard Fournette.
Fair enough. I would go with Pittsburgh Steeler James Conner because despite the talks of maybe limiting his touches, I think he is going to be a workhorse back. And with that offensive line, and they got some weapons to take attention away, I could see him having a monster year and maybe sneaking into that MVP talk.
Yeah, if he can control the fumble issues he had last season, stay healthy, I think he's going to be the big key to that offense, as we saw last year. He was a huge factor for them last season. So yeah, I think that could be a good pick. What does your NFC playoff picture look like?
The NFC, I have the New Orleans Saints as the 1 seed, taking the South. I have the Philadelphia Eagles snagging that 2 seed, taking the East. I have the Seattle Seahawks taking the 3 seed in the West, just edging out the Minnesota Vikings taking the North and the 4 seed, with the LA Rams grabbing that 5th seed, the first wild card, and the Dallas Cowboys sneaking in there at the 6th seed.
Interesting picks. For me, the top 2 seeds I have in the New Orleans Saints with the home field advantage at the 1 seed, and then the LA Rams bringing in the 2 seed. Kind of chalk just like last year. I feel like they're going to have a big rematch this season for the NFC title game after how last season ended. I feel like it's inevitable. But bringing up the 3 seed, I have the Philadelphia Eagles, followed by the Chicago Bears winning the AFC North as the 4 seed. And then my playoff teams are the Seattle Seahawks and then the Green Bay Packers bringing up as the 2nd wild card team. And that kind of transitions here into the MVP discussion because for me, my MVP candidate for the NFC is one Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back season, and he's always a favorite for the MVP discussions when he has a great season. So I see him as my MVP candidate for the NFC. Who is your MVP candidate?
I'll go off the wall. I'll go running back Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of this hedges on him actually signing a contract soon.
Yep.
Because if he does not sign, then he will obviously not be in that talk. But I think if he does soon, which I think he will, he could have a monster year, maybe set some records. And I think without him, that team is decent, and with him, they are a playoff team for sure.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think he is the whole key to their offense. Without him, I don't really see them being a good team. But with him, he makes them a completely better team, like we saw last year, division winner, playoff contending team. So yeah, I can get behind that. I like that. That could be a good pick. All right, some stories to discuss here that happened in the preseason while we've been recording these episodes. First and foremost, let's take a look here at the AFC South with Andrew Luck's retirement. Kind of came out of nowhere.
1 hour after our fantasy draft.
Yeah. That doesn't get much more brutal than that. But how do you feel Luck's retirement is going to affect not only the AFC South, but the AFC in general?
I think I actually had the Colts winning the division with him. Without him, I don't think they're terrible, but they definitely drop off. I think he will cause them to lose a few more games than with him. I think the AFC as a whole is also affected slightly. I had them possibly making a run and getting to the Super Bowl. I think this is the most well-rounded team they've had in a long time. All the weapons on offense, a solid offensive line, and an extremely underrated defense. Yeah, I still can't quite wrap my head around it.
I'm sure Colts fans feel the same way with his retirement here. For me, I don't really have it affecting the AFC South too much because I had Jacksonville winning it from the start, and I just think this strengthens their chances of winning it this season. I think the team that'll benefit most are the Houston Texans. I had Indy at 9 wins and Houston at 8. I think they'll flip-flop there. I didn't really have Indy having a standout season to begin with. I don't think, obviously, the talent drop-off from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett's huge, but that team, as you said, is pretty well-rounded on offense and on defense, and they have really good coaching. And Jacoby Brissett, he's been around for a while, especially on that team. Just a few years ago, he was their starter for a season while Luck was out. So I don't feel like the drop-off in win total is going to be a huge factor, but his retirement does have me bumping them out of the 6th seed in the AFC and out of the playoffs completely. With Luck, I feel like he could have provided them a spark to make a run through the playoffs, but without him, I think that just opens up for other teams to sneak into the playoffs, kind of like Cleveland or Buffalo or Houston. I didn't foresee Indy making it to the Super Bowl this year, so I don't think it has a huge effect on the playoffs, but it does make the path a little easier for some of those top seeds in the AFC. And then also in the AFC South, Lamar Miller tore his ACL, so he's gone as a huge weapon there in Houston. Houston continued to make headlines when they traded away Jadeveon Clowney after waiting too long to do anything with him. They shipped him off to Seattle for not much in return, and then they gave up a bunch to bring in wide receiver Kenny Stills and left tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Miami Dolphins. What are your thoughts on that move, or either of those moves?
I think their offense got slightly better and their defense got slightly worse. Yeah, it was. I thought they could have got more for Clowney, but I mean they kind of had to make a move, so whatever. I like the bringing in Laramie Tunsil. He's a solid left tackle, which you desperately need to protect Watson there. And Kenny Stills provides another weapon. They have a couple, but Will Fuller and Kiki Coutier seem to have injury concerns, so I like that move. I think they also brought in Carlos Hyde to kind of diminish what they lost with Lamar Miller. I think their offense is going to be legit, but their defense might not be as good as they have been in the past few years.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting season for them just because they've gone through a whole lot here within the last few weeks of the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see how these new guys gel. I do like bringing in Stills to kind of help at the wide receiver spot for them, and Laramie Tunsil is he was their franchise tackle there in Miami, so he's going to provide some much needed protection for Deshaun, and if he's able to, that's only going to benefit the Texans that much more and make them that much better of a team. Alright, enough of the chit chat. Let's get to the week 1 schedule here and get with our picks. Alright, might as well start off with the first game of the season, Thursday night, Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. They decided to go with the Bears and the Packers for the 100-year anniversary for the NFL season, so they kick off the season this Thursday. Who do you have winning that game, Chicago or Green Bay?
Yeah, to me it seems weird not having the Super Bowl champion in the first game, but I guess these are two of the oldest teams, perhaps the oldest rivalries, so I guess it makes sense. I think this is going to be a really close game and maybe set the tone for that division. I have the Bears winning, but an extremely close game.
I have the Green Bay Packers Packers taking this first game of the season. I do think it's going to be close, but I'm really big on the Packers this season. I think, like I said, Rodgers is going to have a bounce back season there. I think LaFleur is going to come in and revamp that offense. So I see the Packers shocking the Bears this Thursday night with a big win to kick off the season. Next up, we have the Rams at the Panthers. Who do you have winning that game?
The Rams.
Yeah, I got the Rams as well. Titans at the Browns.
Browns?
I'm actually going to go with the Titans that game.
Ooh.
As a surprise. Kind of catch them early on. The hype's there, but they're going to have to go out and play. So I think it's going to be a good loss for them, if there are such things as good losses in the NFL. And then we have a big matchup, Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you got there?
I have Kansas City pulling out a close one there. I think it's going to be a good game, but I just think they have a little bit too much for Jacksonville to handle.
Yeah, you have arguably the top offense against the top defense in the NFL to kick off the season. I'm actually going to go with Jacksonville. I think they're going to, like I said, they're having a bounce back season this year, I think, and I think they're going to kick it off the right way with a huge win against Kansas City. Next up, Baltimore at Miami. I'm Baltimore all day. What do you say?
Absolutely. I think, Baltimore. Miami just doesn't have enough.
Yeah, it's going to be the start to a long season for them. Falcons at the Vikings. That's another big matchup there. Who do you have?
Another good game to start the season. I have the Vikings taking a close one there.
Yeah.
I just think their defense is pretty stout.
Yeah, I'd go with the Vikings as well, having that. If it was in Atlanta, I think it'd be a different result, but I'll go with the Vikings as well. And then we have the Bills at the Jets.
I can see this one going either way, honestly. I'm going to take Buffalo. I think they are going to surprise some people this year. It starts week 1.
Yeah, I do have Buffalo possibly getting a playoff spot this year, but I think it's going to be a slow start to the season. I think the Jets will take that. Road division games to kick off the season are always tough, so I have the Jets taking the Bills in week 1. And then we have the Redskins at the Eagles. I think it's going to be a close matchup, but I have the Eagles pulling out the win against the Redskins.
I have the Eagles steamrolling the Redskins week 1.
Then we have the Colts at the Chargers. I got the Chargers with the win over the Colts. I thought the Colts might upset them, but since Luck's gone, this is one of the games I think they won't pull out, so I have the Chargers winning this game.
I think the Colts actually win despite not having Luck. Kind of shocked the Chargers here to open the season.
That'd be a big win for them. Then we have the Bengals at the Seahawks. Seahawks all day for me.
Yeah, not even close.
And then we have the Lions at the Cardinals. Thrilling week 1 matchup. I'm going to go with Detroit just because they have the veteran quarterback there, Matthew Stafford.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals, opening up the season with a big win. Matthew Stafford is trash.
That would be a big win for the Cardinals. And then we have the Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. With or without Zeke, I think the Cowboys take that game.
I think without Zeke, it's close. With Zeke, Cowboys run all over them. Pick Cowboys either way, yeah.
Yep, I think we're in agreement there. And then we have the 49ers at the Buccaneers. Who do you have there?
I see this as a close one, too. I think Tampa Bay's offense is going to be really good, but I think 49ers defense is going to be sneaky good, so I have the 49ers in a close one here.
I have to disagree with you there and go with Tampa Bay. I think this is one of the few wins they'll have this season. I think it's a good start to the season for them. I have the Bucs taking that one. And then we have Sunday night game, Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. Who do you have winning that?
I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going into Foxborough and upsetting the defending champions.
My heart wants to go with the Steelers, but my head says the Patriots. They are 0-5 in the Tomlin era in Foxborough against Brady and Belichick. I think they're just 1-7 overall against.
Yes.
And they got that one win last season. I mean, as much as I'd like to see the Steelers win, I don't see how the Patriots blow that game. Now, they do struggle when they struggle. The Patriots do struggle early on in the season, so maybe the Steelers catch them at the right time, but I think it's the Patriots.
I think no Gronk. Steelers. We got a close one. Perhaps the biggest game of the week. Most exciting.
And then we move on to the Monday night games. We have the Houston Texans at the New Orleans Saints. I have the Saints taking that one.
Yeah, I think the Saints are one of the hungriest teams to get this season started, and Texans just coming at a bad time.
And then the other Monday night matchup, once again, another thriller. The Denver Broncos at the Oakland Raiders. Prime time, Mr. Big Chest, right away to kick off the season. Who do you have winning that game?
So appropriate. I think it's going to be good. Oakland offense is supposed to be improved this year, but the Denver defense is still really good. I think Joe Flacco has a good game here, and the Broncos pull this one out.
I got the Broncos winning this game. I think they're just going to manhandle the Raiders. I'm just not a big fan of what's going on in Oakland at the moment, but we will see. But yeah, I have Denver taking that game. Well, that wraps up our predictions for week 1 of the NFL season, and I have a bit of a wild card here to throw at you, Jay Smooth.
Hit me.
What team could make you look like a fool by the end of this season?
Ooh,
team or teams? And I'm throwing this at you without any preparation.
I'll go one team who I think is going to be bad that could be good.
Yep.
I will take the New York Jets. Added some solid pieces on both sides of the ball, and I don't think they're quite there, but they could make me look foolish.
I like that pick. For me, I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not high up on them at all, but I do like what they did with their defense in the offseason, and they do have offensive firepower there if they're able to get things going and Jameis Winston can get back on track here. So at the end of the season, Tampa Bay certainly could make me look like a fool, but for right now, I don't see that happening.
What about the other side? About a good team that could be bad, someone you're high on?
Ooh, throwing me the wild card here
That's
now.
right.
Curveballs out of nowhere. I think that's an easy one for me. One, Jacksonville Jaguars. I think a lot's riding on Leonard Fournette bouncing back and then Nick Foles showing what he can do without the offensive firepower that he had in Philadelphia. So I have them winning the division. They scored, I think, a grand total of 29 points in 4 games this preseason, which, sure, is just preseason, but that is god-awful. Man, it's about 7 points a game, so that's a touchdown a game. Imagine that. How about I flip it to you then? Who's a team that you have with a good record this season that could make you look foolish and end up being terrible?
I could go Cleveland, but that'd be too easy. I'll take the Minnesota Vikings. I am higher on them than most people this year.
Yeah.
But Kirk Cousins doesn't come through. I could easily see the Vikings not being a playoff team. I have them winning the division and making a playoff run.
We will certainly see how that turns out then. And then that wraps up this episode of the Dorks Talk Sports podcast for week 1 of the NFL season. Remember, you can check us out on YouTube, Google Podcast, and SoundCloud.
As usual, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, we'll see you next week then, Yingers.
Later on.
See you soon.